Hi guys, I'm Mike.
And I'm Stephen.
And this is Indy Fanatics, your home for IndyCar content with weekly podcasts and feature videos. Welcome back to the channel, guys, and to another episode of the IndyCar Podcast. And this is our season preview episode. Now, we are trying to keep these podcasts kind of snappy and short so we can get all the key information to you guys and not take too much of your time. So hang around for the duration of this video and hopefully it gives you the kind of complete season preview that you need to know everything going into the IndyCar season. And then also, if you're new to IndyCar or just need some clarification on rules, what can they look out for on Friday, Stephen?
So our feature video this week will be IndyCar Explained, where we basically explain IndyCar. Yeah,
we'll be going through the rules, we'll be going through the point system, we'll be going through what cars they use, as in like the chassis and kind of the main difference in setups and stuff, pit stops, everything. You know, everything you need to know. We'll kind of give a brief roundup in our usual feature video style. But in today's video, obviously you've got us on screen on that aspect, and we're just going to go through mainly the calendar and the drivers and pick out kind of races of note, drivers of note, and fingers crossed gives you everything you comprehensively need to know going into the start of the season. Nice. So, Stephen, we're going to start off with you. Can you go through the first 9 races of the calendar?
So the season kicks off at Barber Motorsports Park on the 18th of April. Then following that is the streets of St. Petersburg on the 25th of April. Then heading into May, we have the Texas Motor Speedway doubleheader on the 1st and 2nd of May, followed by the Indianapolis Motor Speedway road course on the 15th of May. Then rounding off May is the 105th run-in of the Indy 500. Heading into June, we have the doubleheader at Detroit on the 12th and 13th of June. Rounding off June is the race at Road America on the 20th.
And that rounds off the first half of the calendar. And then moving into the second half, we have another classic road course on the 4th of July at Mid-Ohio, followed by the street race in Toronto. Definitely one of the most picturesque tracks on the IndyCar calendar. Then on the 8th of August, making its debut on the IndyCar calendar, is the street race around the streets of Nashville, followed by a return to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway for another race at the road course on the doubleheader weekend with NASCAR at the Brickyard. Then we have the final oval of the season at the Worldwide Technology Raceway at Gateway, rounding off August, and then 3 more races in September to finish off the season with Portland, Laguna Seca, and due to it being moved from the start of the season finale will be at Long Beach. As you can see, as we've worked our way through the calendar as well, you can see that which races are on NBC and which one are on the NBC Sports Network as well. So for you guys watching in the States, you'll know where the races are going to be televised throughout the course of the IndyCar season. And there are actually more races on network this year than there was last year. So that's the calendar. But now we're going to go through some races we think are going to be key. So obviously, the first one that's going to be key is Barber Motorsports Park.
Yep, a strong start sets the momentum of your title bid. And as we saw last year, Dixon had an incredible start to the year, which carried him all the way to the championship. So we're going to be seeing who brings their A game at Barber.
Absolutely. He had 3 wins to start off the start of last season. And after he got that lead, like you said, no one could really kind of keep momentum with him. The next one, really big one on the race, well, there is only one big one that comes to mind, and that is the Indianapolis 500. It is the one that in the comments below, I was talking to Scott, we said that it can define your season. Well, Scott said it can define your career, and that's fair enough. If you win the Indy 500, like we said, people know who you are. It is a really big deal to win that race, and also in the standings of the championship, it's a double points race. So anyone who wins or does well at this race can certainly put a strong bid into winning the championship.
Yeah, especially heading into that second half of the season, near enough.
But number 3 on the list of kind of races of note to pay attention to is the inaugural street race in Nashville. Now, it's the Music City. It's branded as the Music City GP. It is going to be the home GP of Joseph Newgarden, two-time IndyCar champion, and especially if he manages to win the Indy 500 this year, a title that has eluded him in his career to date, it certainly will be a massive party race as well. I think for fans, with fans coming back to the track, hopefully in attendance is growing through that season. I know the kind of vaccine program is accelerated and going ahead well in the United States as it currently stands. So fingers crossed by that stage in August, we're going to be having a decent attendance at the street race at Nashville, and certainly feels like it's going to be a great race for the IndyCar calendar.
Oh yeah. And on to the final race of note. It's got to be the season finale at Long Beach. Will we have another title fight go down to the wire?
We've already said, I think in last week's video of reasons why to watch IndyCar in 2021, that, you know, we feel like out the bat, there's 7 drivers who could be competing for that title. Heck, we don't know how many might be fighting into that season finale, but we sure as hope that, you know, 15 seasons to date, fingers crossed it's the 16th season that this title is going to go to the last fight. And last year, because of the reduced calendar to COVID-19, they prevented it from being a double points finish, which it had been since 2015, I believe. Obviously not Long Beach, but like Sonoma and Laguna Seca, which was the 2019 season finale. But yeah, if it's a double points finish, it then also makes it very interesting because it potentially could be bringing in a lot of candidates and making that race, Long Beach, a great street circuit, the kind of crown jewel of street circuits. I saw it described in the comments down below in our last video. It's just one of those races that are really enjoyable to watch, for sure.
Indeed it is.
But that's it for the calendar. We now move on to the drivers, and we're going to run through all the confirmed drivers to date, whether they are full-time and part-time, and which teams they're driving for, and then we'll pick out our drivers who we think you should be looking out for in this season.
Starting off with AJ Foyt Enterprises, we have Dalton Keller and Sebastian Bourdais filling the full-time seats, with Charlie Kimball also racing at the Indy 500.
Next up, we have one of the big teams and one of the main teams in the championship, which will be Andretti Autosport, with potentially 2 title contenders in Colton Herta and Alexander Rossi. Ryan Hunter-Ray also retained his seat for the 2021 season. James Hinchcliffe also makes his full-time return to the series, riding the number 29 car for Andretti Autosport. And then Marco Andretti was announced earlier in the season that he would step away from running full-time in the series. He may run other races in the schedule, but one race he is definitely confirmed for is running the Indy 500. It is a track that he favours on and feels that he gets his best performance at, so there will be an Andretti racing at the Indy 500.
Moving on to Aaron McLaren SP, and we have Pato Award and Felix Rosenfist being their full-time drivers, but in their part-time seat, the return of one Pablo Montoya for the Indy 500.
Certainly going to be interesting to see how that partnership with McLaren fares after it's been since 2006, where he last drove for the team in Formula One. Moving on to one of the smaller teams within the series, it isn't nationally confirmed whether they will run the full-time season, but their driver will be Max Chilton, a driver who has driven part-time and on ovals for them in the past, has been Connor Daly, but he has spoken in interviews saying that he hasn't been in contact with Trevor Carlin for a while. So expect Carlin to not compete in a full season and Max Chilton to be their driver.
Moving on to the team that fielded last year's champion, Chip Ganassi Racing. And of course, that champion was Scott Dixon, who returns to the number 9 car for another full-time season, alongside Marcus Ericsson and Alex Palou as the full-time drivers. Jimmy Johnson and Tony Kanaan will also be sharing the number 48 car, with Jimmy Johnson racing the road and street circuits and Tony Kanaan racing on the ovals.
Next up is a team that has competed for a long time in the series and over the past decade has gone from improvement to improvement, has brought in one of the biggest names to IndyCar this season, with Roman Grosjean from Formula One racing for Dale Coyne Racing in partnership with Rick Ware Racing. Sharing his seat, as Roman will only be driving the road and street courses, is Pietro Fittipaldi. And then the full-time entry and continuing their partnership, Dale Coyne with Vassar Sullivan, Ed Jones returns to the series after a year out, and it'll be fascinating to see how the guy who had such an impressive rookie season with Dale Coyne gets on with his return to the team.
Next up, we have Ed Carpenter Racing, who retained Rookie of the Year, Rinus VeeKay, in the number 21 car. Alongside Rinus, we have Connor Daly and Ed Carpenter sharing the number 20 car, with Connor Daly competing in the road and street circuits and Ed Carpenter racing in the oval circuits. Connor Daly will also be competing in the Indy 500 as well.
Yes, and we're yet to be confirmed whether that will be with Ed Carpenter Racing, but how it's gone like in previous seasons, he certainly will be within that seat. Meyer Shank Racing, a small team who continue to build their influence within the series, not only fielding a full-time seat for Jack Harvey again this season, also bring back three-time Indy 500 winner Helio Castro-Neves, the first time he hasn't driven for Team Penske in his IndyCar career in over 20 years, will be running the road and street courses, and also, of course, running the Indy 500, seeing if he could join the greats of AJ Foyt, Rick Mears, and Al Unser in having 4 Indy 500 titles.
Next up, the team that won the Indy 500 last year in Rahal Lemon Lanigan Racing, and that driver who won the Indy 500, Takuma Sato, returns in the number 30 car alongside Graham Rahal in the number 15.
The final team on the list and competing in the NTT IndyCar series in the 2021 season is Team Penske, and they have their drivers Joseph Newgarden, rookie Scott McLaughlin, Will Power and Simon Pagenaud. All will be running full-time in the series. Also at the Indy 500, Simona de Silvestro makes her return to the series with Paretta Autosport, a Team Penske-backed entry, making sure that a female will be driving in this year's Indy 500. Now, you've heard all the teams and all the drivers who are competing for them in this season, and now we're just going to give our guys who we reckon you should look out for in the season. Now, last week, obviously, like we said, we gave our 7 title contenders, so we're not going to do that. We'll mention the title contenders. So, well, I'll say the big ones you've got to look out for, the guys who've shared the championships between them in the last 4 years, is Joseph Newgarden and Scott Dixon. Will the title fight remain between those two? They are definitely the lead men in both their teams at Chip Ganassi Racing and Team Penske.
We also have the young and exciting talents in Colton Herter and Pato Award, who are on the cusp of challenging for that title.
Certainly are, and Arrow McLaren SP are certainly a team that with the backing of McLaren last year, they seem to improve. Having 2 young guys in Pato and Oliver Askew, they've now brought in the experience of Felix Rosenqvist and obviously Juan Pablo Montoya running the Indy 500 for them. Certainly will be adding some IndyCar experience to the team. They are certainly a team, and with Pato, a driver to look out for in this season. Another one to look out for is Meyer Shank Racing. They slowly kind of go about, or not slowly, because they're actually very quick. And they go about their business very well and collect very solid results. They potentially will be a team that could be challenging up there for podiums this year. And Jack Harvey is definitely a guy on the IndyCar grid who goes under the radar as quite quick, who could be challenging there up with the top boys, not for a championship, but certainly for maybe podiums and maybe even potentially a race win in the right circumstances.
And don't forget about the Rookie of the Year competition between former Formula 1 driver Roman Grosjean, 3-time Supercar champion Scott McLaughlin, and 7-time NASCAR champion Jimmy Johnson.
I mean, it just keeps getting said. It is basically an all-star field. It feels great. And with those special Indy 500 entries as well, it's so interesting. Could the tail end of their careers, it's unlikely, but could Helio Castro-Neves and Juan Pablo Montoya create some magic at Indianapolis one last time? Could Marco Andretti break the Andretti curse at IMS and finally win the Indy 500? It'll be something that he will be so focused on, as especially that is the one race he will be focusing on this year. So many interesting storylines to go through in this season preview. And, you know, we did our predictions video before testing, but I'll give a note from here, Stephen. Do we want to, as to round off this season preview, pick a champion, an Indy 500 winner just again?
Okay. Mine may be the same, but I'm going for Pato O'Ward as the season champion and Juan Pablo Montoya for the Indy 500 champion. He's back!
Now, I think mine will change because I think I had willpower to win the championship. But the way that Rossi seems to be going about his business, he looks quick. He's driving well. Well, he got the 24 hours of Daytona under his belt at the start of this racing season as well. I just think Alexander Rossi is going to do it, but my 500 winner is going to be exactly the same. I'm backing Joseph Newgarden to finally get the monkey off his back and win the 500. Certainly a title that a driver of his talent deserves throughout the grid. But that's it for our complete IndyCar 2021 season preview. We hope you're looking forward to the season as much as us. Next week, make sure you tune in for the Barber preview to see if we can get any of that last minute notice. We're going to get our race predictions in there, the real kind of bulk and meat on the bones probably of this channel throughout the season to come with our previews and reviews on a Wednesday. We cannot wait for it to get started. And if you've got any questions ahead of the season, make sure you drop them in the comments below. We will do our best to answer them and share your excitement for the season ahead. But if you're new around here or haven't done so already and you want to stick with us through the IndyCar season, what can they do, Stephen?
You can like, subscribe and ding that bell.
Ding it. So for now, you Indy fans, keep racing.